I guess we'll officially get started. Welcome, welcome, everybody. Hello, hello. I am very excited to be announcing this morning. So, good morning and thank you for joining. I'm Amy Wyant. I'm the Executive Director of the Otsego County Conservation Association, and it's my pleasure this morning to introduce our third week of our 2024 Watershed Wednesdays series. Watershed Wednesdays are hosted by the Upper Susquehanna Coalition and the Otsego County Conservation Association and are scheduled for each Wednesday going on now through November 20th. They start at 9:30 a.m. and they are a quick little micro session on some of the really cool things happening throughout the watershed. The full schedule is posted on the Upper Susquehanna's Coalition's Facebook page and the website. You can also sign up for email announcements under the Watershed Wednesdays tab. All the sessions are recorded and you can access both on the website and on the YouTube page. You can also see our archives of some of our previous Watershed Wednesdays there. So, like I mentioned before, but anyone who's joined us just at the end here, we are very excited to have a panel discussion today. So if you have any questions during this panel discussion, feel free to pop them into the chat as we are moving through. And as I mentioned before, at the very end, we also can open up microphones for asking questions directly if we have time. But with no further ado, I'd like to jump right in and meet our panelists for today's session, which is titled Land, Air, and Water, Building Participatory Science in Our Communities. So first off, we have Susan Rosengrant. She is with the Canadarago Lake Improvement Association, and she's the lead for their the acronym is CLIA. So for CLIA's CSLAP program, then we have Andy Mason, who is a co-president of the Delaware-Otsego Audubon Society, who will be talking about their program. And then we've got Jeff O'Hanley, who is the program director at OCCA, and he will be speaking about his program. I'm going to have each person actually introduce their program directly a little bit more, starting with Susan. So Susan.
Good morning. Thanks, Amy. As Amy said, my name is Susan Rosengrant, and I'm a retired biology teacher and school administrator for, wow, I hate to say, over 20 years now. And I came to Canadarago Lake from Connecticut and really became a full-time resident here in 2009. I've just fallen in love with Canadarago Lake. We have a small house, but $1 million view here. And because I love it so much, I got involved right away with our lake association, Canadarago Lake Improvement Association, and found out that the water had been monitored here. The water quality had been monitored for many, many years through DEC, Department of Environmental Conservation. And that there was a new program coming through New York State Federation of Lake Associations called CSLAP. CSLAP stands for Citizens Statewide Lake Assessment Program. So that's what we do, is we assess the lake, but all we are is the team that goes out, collects the water, makes observations, and sends it off to a lab. So some of the things that we do to check the water is the pH, total phosphorus, total nitrogen, nitrogen oxides, chlorophyll A. All of these, and also twice a season, we check calcium and chloride. Now, I got to tell you, I was a biology teacher, but I don't know all the chemistry behind this, and it doesn't really matter. What I've really become more over time is the lead for the group, and we have grown since we started with CSLAP in 2015 from 3 people to 13 people on the team. And also the job itself has mushroomed to watching for invasive species, watching for harmful algae blooms, as well as collecting water, and we pour it out and send it off to the lab. So that's kind of it in nutshell, I'd just like to mention a couple of interesting things about our lake, and that is that um, we have a state boat launch here, which means we're a hub for fisher people, and have been probably since the Native Americans roamed here. But with fisher people coming in, various boats come in. And one of the things that we were able to do, unfortunately, a little late because we have zebra mussels here in our lake, have had them for most of the 20 years that I've been here, because we did not have a lake steward program. We now have an award-winning lake steward program that inspects boats and takes all the garbage that goes with that when people don't really want to do that. They want to get in the water. But recommend that we use a pretty new hot water boat washing system that we got through a grant. So our lake association is very involved in the health of this lake and will continue to be as we look forward to um, a big, huge project of possibly getting sewers all around this lake, which has 3 different towns bordering it. So unique we are, but we're unique also because people that live on the lake care about the lake. So that's kind of it for me. And I'll take lots of questions whenever.
Awesome. Thank you, Susan.
Well,
Andy, if you can go ahead and introduce yourself and your program at Delaware Audubon Society.
Sure. We're a chapter of the National Audubon Society, and I think citizen science, by and large, started with Audubon. The first large-scale monitoring program was the Christmas counts, which started in 1900, Christmas Day in 1900, and that was as an alternative to practice of going out and hunting, killing as many birds as possible on that day. And so some Audubon members early in the conservation movement started counting birds on Christmas Day instead, and started with 27 counts, and now there's over 2,600 counts. So it's over a century and a quarter, and there's 100 years of data available to researchers. We sponsor 3 Christmas counts in our area: Oneonta, Fort Plain, and one in Delaware County. All the Christmas counts are done in a circle 15 miles in diameter, so it's the same area every year. And so it's quite a body of evidence, statistics that has been compiled. It's available to researchers. We also have a hawk monitoring location in the fall. We have a fall Hawkwatch, Franklin Mountain Hawkwatch, where we count migrating raptors from late August into December, over about 100 days each season. That's been going on for 35 years now. And we get about 16 species each year, average about 5,000 birds counted. The other programs we do regarding monitoring bird populations, we do a spring migration count. We participate in a statewide waterfowl census in January. New York is just completing its 3rd breeding bird atlas this year, and we participated in that, covering quite a large area of central New York. Our members going out and surveying for birds that are breeding and finding evidence of that in the state. We also our members, not the organization specifically, but our members do participate in the Great Backyard Bird Count, which is a Cornell Lab of Ornithology project. And then a lot of birders these days use eBird, which is an online app that birders use to record their sightings anywhere and anytime, and that's also through Cornell. Bird watchers are great listers, keeping lists. So it's a natural fit for recording data. And so this birding has contributed dramatically to what has been known about bird populations and bird movements. And so, you know,
It looks like we are
probably
having
more than any other aspect of natural science. So we're happy to be a part of that.
perfect. Thank you so much, Andy. It looks like you're having some technical difficulties, but it was perfect timing. So we're going to hand things over to Jeff to introduce himself. And if need be, Andy, you can also turn off your video, which should help with connectivity.
Okay.
All right, Jeff.
All right, thank you, Amy, and thank you everybody for being here today. I brought visuals because that's how I think. I'll be talking a little bit about OCCA's Hemlock Woolly Adelgid Surveying Project, and I call it a work in progress because it definitely is. First, just about me a little bit. I've been with OCCA for 11 years now. I'm a wildlife scientist by training, an environmental educator by vocation, and OCCA's invasive species guy kind of by necessity as well as interest. OCCA started the roots of our Hemlock Woolly Adelgid program back in 2017 because we kept looking at the distribution map for Hemlock Woolly Adelgid in the state and seeing a giant white area around Otsego County right here with one little red dot. There was one confirmed infestation of Hemlock Woolly Adelgid in Milford, discovered in 2012. And while the rest of the map for the state got redder and redder as adelgid worked its way up and through, Otsego County stayed plain white like that. And we asked the question, is it because adelgid is not actually here or because nobody's been looking? So in 2017, we partnered with the Catskill Regional Invasive Species Partnership, Mohican Farm, and Cooperative Extension to host some workshops. The goals of the trainings were to raise public awareness, adelgid, engage volunteers in meaningful outdoor environmental activity, and to fill in the data gaps relating to adelgid in Otsego County. This was kind of a fire and forget for OCCA. We really provided the people, the publicity, and the venue. CRISP did the actual training, and volunteers were asked to go out, survey their property, wherever, and submit reports back to CRISP. We did trainings in 2017 and 2019. We had 33 people attend, and CRISP got actually no reports back, which meant, well, it meant that people weren't reporting for whatever reason. The pandemic kind of put a kibosh on things for a bit, and we resurrected the program in 2022, spurred on in part by the discovery of adelgid populations in Oneonta and Cooperstown. This time out, we partnered again with Mohican Farm, as well as the New York State Hemlock Initiative out of Cornell. The general goals of the program were the same as previously. Again, fill in the data gaps, engage people, raise awareness, but we were also trying to help the Hemlock Initiative find potential biocontrol release sites to help control the adelgid. Some other changes that we made included submitting detect, no detect survey reports directly to IMAP invasives. And OCCA and Mohican Farm also led a number of field excursions, basically, where we would take volunteers out into the field and survey for hemlocks. So in terms of raising awareness and engaging people, we were pretty successful. We had over 150 participants in 10 trainings. We had 50 unique volunteers who participated in at least one survey led by OCCA and Mohican. Good data entries. We found 4 new sites. Where we're kind of falling a little short, though, is that engagement of public on their own. We only had 5 volunteer independent survey time. So as I said, it's a bit of a work in progress. We're continuing refinements as we go forward, and I'll be happy to talk about some of that more during the Q&A portion of the program. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Jeff. As a reminder, so we are going to go into the question portion. Please pop your questions into the chat and we can make sure the panelists get them. I have a few questions prepared so that we can kind of start this part of the session. Sorry, everyone, I can't speak this morning. So this is something that I'd love for each of you to touch on quickly. So what are some of the successes of your program? Some of you've already kind of put those in there, but also some of the challenges. Jeff, I think you've already answered both of those. But yeah, anything that you want to bring forward, especially if folks are going, working on putting together their own community science programs.
I'll
Well,
just,
I think with the birding efforts, fortunate because these are people doing things that they enjoy doing, and they're going to be out there anyway in many cases. Uh, and so adding this aspect of recording and reporting the information is not, not much of an addition to what they're already doing. So I don't know how transferable that is to other, other
You have,
monitoring programs.
yeah, exactly. You have a very unique and positive. I think
Yeah,
that Jeff and Susan's programs are a little bit different. So Susan, you were
right.
going to jump in.
sure. We have two membership meetings, one in July and then another in August. I mean June and August, so that it starts the season and it ends it. So we did a push at a meeting, at a June meeting, had a microscope set up to show anybody who was there what we find in the water, a paramecium here and there that really is always in the water. But it piqued some people's interest. So, oh, I used to love science when we looked through the microscope, and they wanted to volunteer. We had papers ready for them to sign, and or to sign up, and I put my email out. So we got a good number of people then. And it hasn't waned because the problem has become bigger with more for us to do. So I'm hoping that we can get, same thing, people who want to look through a microscope to say, yes, that's a harmful algae bloom, and pass it on to Oneonta, SUNY Oneonta, to get it confirmed. So it's an ebb and a flow.
Awesome.
And I
Yes.
think with regard to the adelgid surveying, some of the challenges over the years have been, I think that the first iteration, the process that uh, people were supposed to follow to investigate for the adelgid was a little confusing to people. So it was maybe a little too complicated. I know that as somebody trying to get people out in the field, I get concerned because, we're asking them to potentially go into a state forest or something where there may or may not be trails that are marked and designated. And, it's one thing to take a group out there and line everybody up across the forest and push through a hemlock stand, but it's another to send one or two people out there on their own. And I think that the process is a little less, in some ways it might feel a little muddier than, for example, going out and sampling on the lake or counting birds or something with the adelgid. So I think that is one of the challenges, looking for a more streamlined process.
And so far, Jeff, what are some of the ideas for the future of how to streamline that process?
Well, we've looked at trying to improve reporting. So IMAP invasives is great, but not everybody wants to have an IMAP invasives account. So, we're willing to maybe set up forms on our own that people can report directly back to us. We've tried done things with assigning people specific trails or specific sites, or, maybe saying it's on the third Saturday of the month is Hemlock Day, or something like that, where you go out and sample and report back. So
Awesome. Susan, and obviously Andy, your program, Christmas counts are on Christmas, right? You have that set
Well,
time
they're
in which
actually
to.
the week before and the week after Christmas, so not
Okay, there you go.
exactly.
See?
Yeah.
But it sounds like there's a lot of set timing. Have you seen that being successful? Because people kind of know ahead of time when it's happening. Do you see a lot of people coming back and participating again?
Yes, definitely. There are a lot of regulars, people who have done it for nearly the entire length of some of the Christmas counts. But we also get new people, you know, we do publicize it, and you know, word gets around, and it's a great way for new people to come into this sort of work, if you want to call it work. But we always pair up new people with experienced people. And so, yeah, for many people, it's an introduction to that next step in birding of recording the information, recording what you see.
Very good. Susan, do you have anything that you'd like to add with challenges and or successes that you've seen with your CSLAP team? And
Sure. The keeping the enthusiasm up is, it can be, you feel like a salesperson a bit, but I try to mix it up a little bit. I guess it's the teacher in me of making sure that we mix up the team. We only need a captain of a boat and 2 or 3 other people. So I try to, if the same 2 people were always doing it, the others would say, what am I here for?
Mhm.
So I rotate them in, but I also, in the very beginning, that's part of the administration of it, is I collect, when are you not available? And so then I work up the schedule from there. Now there's a change coming on next year for 2025. The program is not going to be 8 sessions like we usually do bi-weekly. So it's only going to be 4 sessions. So we need less people. I'm having a gathering this Saturday to talk with them to find out, well, what parts do they want to be involved in? Because we now do have microscopes we need to look in, and some of them will go to that. And we're looking at starting a tributary investigation to see where some of the pollutants are coming from. And there were people, I said, I don't want to put waders on and go up a stream. Who's in? And some of the younger people said, oh, I want to do that. So we've just gotten lucky in a lot of ways more recently, but it's going to be a challenge. Watching for HABs is the biggest one for us, I think.
okay, so it sounds like putting some creativity around your community science team has definitely allowed for more participation.
And adding and getting their ideas, because they are full of ideas. Good ones.
Yeah. Wonderful. Any other questions from folks at large? Because I have plenty of questions to keep asking the panel, but I want to make sure that if anyone has questions. Oh, we've got one right here. Jeff, when landowners ask what they can do to prevent or protect their property from HWA becoming established, what is your response? What would your response be? Would you recommend recommend that the infected hemlock be harvested?
Yeah, that's a tough question, because one of the things we're finding with the adelgid is that it's so kind of patchy in terms of how it gets established. I'm not necessarily a recommender of going out and harvesting right away, because when you do that, if you're taking down large numbers of trees, you're potentially taking out trees that might have some resistance to the insect. I know there's a group that is actually looking into that now. I think they're just getting started on that. But there are some the difference is, are you talking about ornamental trees on your lawn and in your yard, or are you talking about, a stand on your property down by the water? There are some practices with silviculture where you can do some thinning, taking out some, potentially compromised trees and leaving some of the healthier ones, spreading it out a little bit. And I would say that the other thing is you just have to be vigilant. I think you just get out there and check periodically, looking for them. Yeah, there are some treatments for adelgid. There are some different insecticides that can be used, and I try to remember what they are. The Hemlock Initiative has a lot of great information on their website about it. There is one that is fast acting but short duration, and I think one that is slow acting but long duration. And they've both been pretty effective at it. What's tough is, again, the difference between treating, 5 or 6 trees on in your backyard versus, you know, a 10-acre or 20-acre stand of all hemlocks. So
Very good. Well, keep those questions coming, folks, in the chat. While you are thinking up wonderful questions, I'd love to know what you all do with your data after you've collected it. I know you've sort of hinted at it, but even if it's something that, you know, might look into future, what are you hoping that your data will bring for our community?
Well, the Audubon data, the Christmas County data goes into a very large database managed by National Audubon Society. And as I mentioned, there's over 100 years of information in there now, and that's available to researchers. And I think there's, something like 200 peer-reviewed papers that have been prepared using that data, various aspects of birds. Our Hawkwatch data goes to the Hawkwatch, the Hawk Migration Association of North America, which compiles the data from all the Hawkwatches. You know, there are hundreds of Hawkwatches across the country and Canada. And again, that's a big resource to researchers, and they also prepare population trend estimates that tell us how hawks are doing, you know, nationwide. The eBird information from Cornell that goes into Cornell, that is now immense. That's in tens of millions of records that have been submitted there. And again, all of this is publicly available to researchers. And so, yeah, so it's all kept in safe places and long-term storage. So
Wonderful.
and
Yeah,
go ahead,
Susan.
Susan.
For us, it's an ounce of prevention is a pound of cure, because just our Lake Steward program has prevented the water chestnuts. We found some and pulled them immediately, and we've taken them off boats. And we wouldn't have had the Lake Steward program without seeing the need for it. And everything that comes from us goes down to the Chesapeake Bay. So it's all connected. It's extremely important. We are not a quantitative group, we are a qualitative group. And so it's a little bit different from the birding and perhaps even with the hemlocks, but whatever we protect here, it's going to have an effect downstream.
Beautiful. Jeff,
And I would just add that with data going to IMAP invasives, it's I think most people here probably are familiar with IMAP. It's a database of invasive species, basically, and it's available. It becomes available for some of the land managers. If it turns up in a state forest somewhere, the forester can make decisions about how they're going to treat that site, or if they're going to treat that site. And as I mentioned, we are also submitting data on hemlock stands to the Hemlock Initiative. And they're looking for good sites where they can do biocontrol releases to help get the adelgid under control as well. So, you know.
Very good. Awesome. So I think that brings us just about to 10 o'clock. Thank you, panelists, so much for joining us today and talking about each one of your programs. I think that the biggest takeaway from all of this is that community science definitely has a space in our communities, allowing people to participate. And obviously, I might be a little biased being part of OCCA because that's part of our big push. But we love to see that getting the rest of the community out there and participating in the research that we do, and find that the data is useful in a lot of different ways. So with no further ado, if you have last minute questions, go ahead and pop them in. But I wanted to share what's coming up for our next Watershed Wednesday. So this will be next Wednesday. We're going to be hearing from Amanda Barber, and it should be a very exciting session. So again, thank you everybody for joining us. And yeah, we hopefully will see you next week as well.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.